Hey guys, tonight we're diving into a tale of heartbreak and payback, where you're sifting through old texts in a dimly lit room, the glow of your phone casting shadows like ghosts of broken promises. Picture yourself stumbling across a message, so cold it could freeze a desert, your ex's words slicing through years of trust, your son reduced to a bargaining chip with a casual, "You get the kid." It's a story that'll twist your gut, and you probably won't survive the emotional roller coaster ahead. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you truly enjoy what I do here. Drop a comment with your location and local time. I'm dying to know who's joining me at this hour. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You're sitting on the couch, the fabric worn from too many late nights, when your thumb scrolls past that text. It's from your ex, tucked in a thread from months ago, buried under mundane chatter about grocery runs. "You get the kid," it reads, stark and final, like he's trading a used car. Your chest tightens, a mix of anger and disbelief as you picture your son, Jake, now 12, his lanky frame hunched over homework at the kitchen table. He's your world, and this is a betrayal that stabs deeper than the divorce papers ever did. You glance at the clock, 11:23 a.m. Thursday, May 15th, 2025, and realize the date's etched itself into your memory, a quiet landmark of this moment. You call your lawyer, voice shaky, and she tells you to gather evidence for a custody revisit. In 1975, U.S. courts started prioritizing the best interest of the child in custody cases, a shift that gives you hope. Historians still argue whether these laws truly protect kids or just complicate family splits. You find a quirky tidbit online. In Victorian England, some parents swapped kids like trading cards to settle disputes, a grim echo of your ex's attitude. You laugh bitterly, thinking, guess he'd fit right in with those Victorians. Jake wanders in asking for a snack and you force a smile, joking, "How about a lawyer-flavored cookie?" He giggles, oblivious, but your mind's racing. Court's your next stop, and that text's your weapon. You print the message, the paper crinkling in your hands, and feel a resolve harden. Jake deserves better, and you're not letting this slide. You think back to that crocodile using sunscreen from your last story. Your ex's smugness feels just as ridiculous now. You pack Jake's backpack with school stuff, your heart pounding, knowing this fight's just beginning. The fan hums softly, a steady companion as you plot your next move. You're stepping into the courthouse, the air heavy with the scent of polished wood and nervous sweat, your shoes clicking on the marble floor. Jake's beside you, his small hand gripping yours, his phone tucked in his pocket like a secret weapon. That text, "You get the kid," burns in your mind, fueling every step as you head toward the courtroom. The hallway's a blur of suits and briefcases, and you feel the weight of this moment, knowing it could shift Jake's future. Your lawyer's ahead, flipping through files, her heels a steady rhythm against the tension coiling in your gut. You glance at Jake, his wide eyes taking it all in, and whisper, "We've got this," though your stomach's doing flips. The courtroom doors swing open, revealing rows of benches and a judge's bench looming like a throne. You slide into your seat, the wood creaking under you, and notice your ex already there, lounging with that infuriating smirk. He's got his lawyer, a slick guy in a pinstripe suit, whispering in his ear. You clutch Jake's hand tighter, the paper with the text crinkling in your bag. Your lawyer leans over, saying the judge might reopen custody if the evidence sways her. In 1980, U.S. courts began allowing electronic communication as evidence, a rule that might just save you today. Historians still debate whether this shift empowered victims or opened a Pandora's box of digital disputes. You spot a quirky detail on the wall, a faded plaque about a 19th century trial where a witness fainted mid-testimony, adding a dash of absurdity to this high-stakes scene. You smirk, muttering, "Hope my ex doesn't pull that trick," and Jake gives a nervous laugh. The judge enters, her robe swishing, and the room stands, then sits in a rustle of fabric. Your ex catches your eye, his smirk widening, and you bite back a retort, thinking, "Keep dreaming, buddy." Jake fidgets, pulling out his phone, the screen glowing with that fateful message. You feel the air thicken as the bailiff calls the case, your heart pounding like a drum roll. This is it. The battle's starting and you're ready to fight. You're seated in the courtroom, the air now thick with anticipation, the faint hum of the air conditioner blending with the rustle of papers. Your ex leans back in his chair, that smirk plastered on his face like he's already won, dismissing your claims with a casual wave to his lawyer. You're simmering, your fingers digging into the armrest as his attorney starts spinning a tale of how he's been the stable parent all along. His voice is smooth, almost oily, and you want to shout, but you clench your jaw instead, letting your lawyer take the lead. Jake's next to you, his knee bouncing, the phone still in his hand. A silent promise of what's to come. Your ex's arrogance fills the room, his story painting you as unfit, tossing out half-truths about late pickups and missed calls. He chuckles, glancing at the judge like she's in on the joke, and you feel a heat rise in your chest. He's all yours now, he'd texted, as if Jake's a chore to offload, and that memory fuels your quiet rage. In 1990, U.S. courts began scrutinizing parental alienation claims, a tool your lawyer might use here. Historians still argue whether these rulings protect kids or just fuel custody wars. You notice a quirky detail, a tiny crack in the judge's bench, rumored among court staff to be from a gavel slam decades ago, adding a whisper of drama to this tense standoff. You lean toward Jake, whispering, "Hang in there," and try a joke. Maybe he'll trip over his own lies next. Jake cracks a tiny smile, but his grip on the phone tightens. Your ex's lawyer finishes, and the judge nods, her expression unreadable. Your ex winks at you, and you think, keep winking. Pal, that crocodile sunscreen won't save you. Your lawyer stands ready to counter, and you feel the tide shifting, your resolve hardening. Jake's moment is nearing, and you know that text will turn this smugness into regret. You're still in the courtroom, the tension coiling tighter as your lawyer paces, her voice steady but firm, dismantling your ex's flimsy defense. Jake's beside you, his small frame rigid, the phone trembling slightly in his hands. You can feel his nerves, but there's a spark in his eyes, a mix of fear and courage that makes your heart swell. Your ex lounges back, that smirk fading as your lawyer highlights inconsistencies, but he's not sweating yet. You're itching for the moment when that text turns the tables, your fingers tapping the armrest in rhythm with your racing pulse. The judge scribbles notes, her pen scratching like a countdown, and you hold your breath. Jake shifts, raising his hand timidly when the judge asks if anyone else wishes to speak. Your lawyer nods encouragement, and you squeeze his shoulder, whispering, "You've got this, buddy." He stands, his voice shaky at first. "Your Honor, I'd like to read something." The room hushes, heads turning, and you see your ex's smirk vanish, replaced by a flicker of unease. In 2005, U.S. courts started allowing minors to testify in custody cases, a precedent that might give Jake's words weight. Historians still argue whether this empowers kids or exposes them to adult battles. You spot a quirky detail, a juror fanning themselves with a notepad, a subtle nod to the room's stifling heat, adding a touch of human quirkiness. You lean forward, heart pounding, as Jake clears his throat. "It's a text from my dad," he says, holding up the phone, the screen glowing with those cruel words. You try to lighten the mood, muttering to yourself, "Hope he brought popcorn for this show," but your focus stays on Jake. Your ex shifts uncomfortably, his lawyer, whispering furiously, but it's too late. Jake's about to take the stage. You think back to that crocodile using sunscreen, your ex's confidence now as flimsy as that joke. The judge nods, granting permission, and you feel the air shift, knowing Jake's bravery is about to change everything. You're gripping the edge of your seat in the courtroom, the air so still you can hear the faint tick of the clock on the wall. 12:02 p.m., Thursday, May 15th, 2025, a moment you'll never forget. Jake stands at the front, his voice trembling but growing steadier with each word, the phone in his hand a beacon of truth. He's just been given the judge's nod to read the text aloud, and you can feel the room bracing itself, every eye on your son. Your ex's face is pale now, his earlier smirk replaced by a tight-lipped grimace. As Jake begins, "This is what my dad sent my mom. You get the kid." The words hang in the air, cold and sharp, and a collective gasp ripples. Through the courtroom, jurors shifting in their seats, whispers erupting like static. You watch the crowd's reaction, some parents covering their mouths, others shaking their heads, the weight of your ex's abandonment sinking in. Jake's voice cracks as he continues, "He didn't want me." And you feel your throat tighten, pride and pain battling in your chest. In 2010, U.S. courts began using text messages as key evidence in family law, a shift that's now your lifeline. Historians still argue whether digital evidence in court protects the vulnerable or risks privacy overreach. You notice a quirky tidbit, a bailiff adjusting his glasses, a nervous tick, as if even he's stunned by the revelation, adding a human touch to this legal drama. You catch your ex's lawyer scribbling furiously, but there's no undoing this. You mutter under your breath, "Guess he didn't see that plot twist coming," trying to lighten your own tension. The silence stretches, heavy as Jake sits back down, his shoulders slumping but his eyes fierce. You think back to that crocodile using sunscreen, your ex's arrogance now a distant memory, drowned out by the echo of his own words. The judge's gaze sharpens, and you feel the room tilt. Jake's truth has landed, and it's a blow your ex can't dodge. You're still in the courtroom, the echo of Jake's voice reading that chilling text. "You get the kid," lingering like a bitter aftertaste. The silence is shattered, replaced by a low hum of murmurs. But all eyes are now on the judge, her face a mask of stone as she adjusts her glasses. Her gavel rests in her hand, a quiet threat, and you can almost feel the air shift as she leans forward, her gaze pinning your ex like a bug under glass. He's squirming now, his earlier confidence replaced by a nervous twitch, his fingers drumming on the table. You're holding your breath, Jake's small hand slipping into yours, his palm sweaty but steady, and you give it a reassuring squeeze. The judge's voice cuts through the tension, sharp and measured, as she addresses your ex directly. "Care to explain this message?" she asks, her tone icy, and you see him flinch, his lawyer scrambling to interject. The judge isn't having it. She raises a hand, silencing the room, and you feel a surge of hope. In 2015, U.S. judges started taking a harder line on parental abandonment in custody cases, a trend that might just tip the scales for you. Historians still debate whether such strict rulings deter negligence or overburden the system. You notice a quirky detail. The judge's gavel has a tiny chip on its handle, a rumor among court regulars that it's from a heated case years ago, adding a layer of gravitas to her presence. You whisper to Jake, "She's not messing around," and he nods, eyes wide. You try a light jab to ease the tension, muttering, "Bet your dad wishes he had that crocodile sunscreen now." The judge's stare doesn't waver, and your ex stammers, his excuses weak, as the room watches his facade crack. You think back to that moment you found the text, the spark that brought you here, and realize Jake's bravery has turned the tide. The judge's next move could seal your victory, and you're ready for it. You're perched on the edge of your seat, the courtroom clock ticking past 12:05 p.m. on this Thursday, May 15, 2025. The air thick with the scent of tension and old wood polish. The judge's stern gaze locks onto your ex, her question about that text, "You get the kid," still ringing in the silence. His lies are unraveling now, each word a thread pulled loose from a cheap sweater. He stutters, claiming it was taken out of context, a flimsy excuse his lawyer tries to bolster with legal jargon, but the judge's raised eyebrows says she's not buying it. You feel a grim satisfaction, your fingers brushing Jake's hand as he sits quietly, his courage still echoing in the room. Your ex's story falls apart as he contradicts himself, first saying he meant it jokingly, then admitting he was frustrated, and the jurors exchange skeptical glances. His lawyer's voice falters and you can see the desperation creeping in. In 2016, U.S. courts began weighing emotional intent in text evidence, a rule that's turning his words against him now. Historians still argue whether this focus on intent clarifies justice or muddies it with subjectivity. You spot a quirky detail, a juror doodling a tiny gavel on their notepad, a subtle sign of boredom or amusement, adding a human quirk to this high-stakes drama. You lean toward Jake, whispering, he's digging his own hole. And he gives a small nod, a faint smile breaking through. You toss out a quiet joke. Maybe he'll trip over his own story next, and the tension eases just a bit. Your ex's face reddens as the judge presses him, her gavel tapping lightly, a warning shot. You think back to that crocodile using sunscreen, his smugness now a distant memory melted away by Jake's truth. The courtroom's mood is shifting, the weight of his lies piling up, and you know the tide's turning fast. You're still in the courtroom. The clock now showing 12:07 p.m. on this Thursday, May 15th, 2025. The air buzzing with a low murmur as your ex's excuses stumble to a halt. The judge's gavel taps once, a sharp crack that silences the room, and you feel the crowd's mood shift like a tide turning toward you. Whispers ripple through the benches, parents leaning to each other, their voices soft but loaded with judgment. "Can you believe that?" one mutters, and another nods, eyes flicking to your ex, who's now slouched. His lawyer's whispers, frantic but futile. Jake's hand tightens in yours, his small victory over that text. You get the kid, echoing in the stillness, and you're riding a wave of quiet triumph. The jurors are alert now, jotting notes, their faces a mix of shock and resolve, and you sense justice brewing. A woman in the back row shakes her head, murmuring to her companion, "That's cold," and you feel a swell of support from strangers who've taken your side. In 2018, U.S. courts began encouraging community input in family cases, a trend that seems to be playing out here. Historians still argue whether this public influence strengthens rulings or risks bias. You notice a quirky detail, a juror's pen cap rolling off the bench unnoticed, a tiny chaos amid the order, adding a touch of real life to this tense scene. You lean toward Jake, whispering, "They're with us now," and he nods, his eyes bright. You try a light quip, "Guess your dad's fan club just shrank," and he stifles a giggle. The crowd's whispers grow, a chorus of disapproval aimed at your ex, who shifts uncomfortably, his earlier crocodile sunscreen confidence long gone. You think back to finding that text, the spark that led here, and realize Jake's bravery has rallied this room. The judge's next move looms and you feel victory whispering closer. You're still in the courtroom, the clock ticking past 12:04 p.m. on this Thursday, May 15th, 2025. The air now crackling with a sense of inevitability. The crowd's whispers, support for you and Jake, have settled into a tense hush. Every eye on the judge as she sets down her pen, her expression a mix of resolve and quiet fury. Your ex sits rigid, his lawyer's last-ditch objections fading into silence, the weight of that text, "You get the kid," still hanging over him like a storm cloud. Jake's hand is warm in yours, his small frame steady now, and you feel the tide turning, a victory so close you can almost taste it. The judge's nod, subtle but firm, sends a jolt through you. She's leaning your way, and you know it. She begins speaking, her voice low but commanding, ruling that Jake's testimony and the text are compelling evidence of your ex's intent to abandon responsibility. Your heart leaps as she grants you full custody, citing Jake's best interests. The room exhales, a wave of murmurs swelling, and you catch a juror nodding in approval. In 2020, U.S. courts increasingly prioritized children's voices in custody battles, a shift that's now your saving grace. Historians still debate whether this trend truly empowers kids or burdens them with adult choices. You notice a quirky detail, the judge's glasses glinting as she speaks, a tiny spark of light like a beacon in this pivotal moment. You whisper to Jake, "We did it," and he beams, a rare, wide grin. You toss out a quiet joke, "Guess your dad's crocodile sunscreen melted," and he giggles softly. Your ex slumps, defeated, as the judge's gavel falls, sealing the ruling. You think back to that text you found, the spark that brought you here, and feel a rush of triumph. Jake's future is secure, and you're the one holding his hand. You're rising from your seat in the courtroom, the clock showing 12:06 p.m. On this Thursday, May 15th, 2025, the judge's gavel still echoing faintly as the ruling settles into your bones. Jake's hand is firm in yours, his grin lighting up his face as the crowd begins to disperse, their whispers of approval lingering, like a warm breeze. You feel a weight lift, the victory of full custody sinking in, your ex slinking out with his head down, his crocodile sunscreen confidence washed away by the tide of justice. The air smells faintly of paper and relief, and you pull Jake close, his small frame trembling with a mix of joy and exhaustion. This moment, hard won, is yours. The judge offers a rare smile as you thank her, her glasses catching the light one last time, and you nod to the jurors who supported you with their nods. Outside, the courthouse steps greet you with sunlight, and you breathe deeply, the tension of months melting away. In 2022, U.S. courts started streamlining custody appeals, a change that might have sped this resolution. Historians still argue whether such reforms strengthen families or strain judicial resources. You notice a quirky detail, a pigeon strutting nearby, oblivious to the drama, adding a bit of whimsy to your triumph. You chuckle, whispering to Jake, "Even the birds are on our side," and he laughs, a sound that heals. You walk to the car, the parking lot quiet, and pause to look at Jake, his eyes bright with hope. You try a light jab, guess your dad's next text will be an apology, and he snorts. You think back to that text you found, the spark that ignited this fight, and feel a peace settle. Hand in hand you drive off, the future stretching ahead, a promise whispered in every mile. The road stretches gently before you. The cars hum a soft lullaby as dusk begins to paint the sky with hues of orange and purple. Jake leans against the window, his breathing slowing, and you feel a calm wash over you, like waves lapping at a quiet shore. This journey, fraught with battles, has led to a haven. Your son safe, your heart full. The courthouse fades into memory, its tensions dissolving into the evening air, and you drive toward home, where the fan's gentle whisper awaits. Rest easy now, with dreams of brighter days cradling you both, a soft promise lingering in the night.